I was in a toxic relationship and suffering from postpartum depression. My mother-in-law at the time came over. She took my newborn child and told me that they were not going to let me and my husband raise him. My husband had left earlier that evening to go out. I was so depressed, I took drugs to end things. I couldn't go on living if they were going to take my child. My husband came home and found me on the floor in the bathroom and unconscious. His mom was a nurse, so he called her, and she came over right away to help bring me back to consciousness. They called an ambulance to come and get me. At the hospital, procedures were started to reverse the overdose. I was in and out of consciousness during this time, but several days later my condition severely deteriorated. Tubes were inserted into my body to help me breathe and get nutrients. My liver was completely failing. I was life-flighted to another hospital. When my family arrived, the specialists asked if they wanted to put me in the transplant list. They said that since I had tried to end it, that maybe they should just let me go. But my father had died that way, and my stepdad did not want to put my mother through that again. He talked the medical specialist into putting me on the list. Being on the other side is the most wonderful feeling, and it's truly something I cannot explain with words. It's not a thinking thing. It's more of a feeling that is the most authentic, pure feeling, even beyond what we can imagine with our minds or senses. I know that there was light and a passage from the darkness heading into the light. It's so hard to describe the light because it's so bright and vivid with colors that are not on Earth. What I know from my experience is that I passed through some realm and then hovered around while entities of energy, light, and sound connected with my energy field. We communicated without words. I was trying to get across to them that I liked it here so much better and I wanted to stay. I was done with life because it hurt so badly. I was in a mentally and physically abusive relationship and had no means to escape it. They were threatening to take my newborn child, and I couldn't live with that. I was afraid my family wouldn't help me get out of that situation because they were also afraid of my husband. My father was with me. His presence was so reassuring, and I knew that he had been watching over me, protecting me, and giving me signs, clues about when to get out over the years so that I wouldn't get hurt. I felt the warm embrace of my grandfather and other loved ones who had passed over. It was more like our energies mingling or combining. I was filled with love and no feelings of guilt for who I was in my earthly life or any of my weaknesses. I was told by an entity that they needed me to go back. My family would suffer too much if they lost me. I knew they would help me out of my situation and lead me into another life that would be fitting for me. But I did not want to go back. I was trying to get across that everyone would be so much better off without me being a burden if I was alive. I kept saying I would come back again in another life and try all over again. The entities said they were so proud of me for what I had withstood, how much I had grown, and how wise and strong I really was in this life. They told me I was to come back and help others and they would show me the way. I wasn't happy at the thought of going back, and then they showed me a scene. I was outside of my body looking in on my mother who was sitting quietly and crying in the room with me on the ventilator. I could not decipher the words she was quietly saying, but I know that she was praying and speaking to passed-on family. I could feel her pain and how much this would hurt her and my brothers and sisters. She knew what I had been living through was extremely tough, and it's why I had tried to end it all. I told the entity that I was okay and would get back in my body now, and I did. Just then I began coughing because of the tubes, and they came into my room to do some checks. I couldn't really speak, and they told me they would take out the tube as soon as they could. This was a horrible experience. My situation was explained to me, and my immediate family all visited, and then they were going to go get some rest because they all needed it badly. I was safe from my husband because he was not allowed to visit me there. and now we would just wait because I needed the transplant as soon as possible to survive. I was fine. I already knew it. I was happy, and I knew what happens after this life. We go someplace safe where we're not judged, just loved. I hadn't felt love for so long before I passed, and I had needed it so badly. And now I knew that it's what we all have to look forward to. I didn't get a transplant. My test results started coming back within the normal range without medical intervention. The doctors told me this wasn't even possible. There's no way it could happen, and that it's probably false results, which sometimes occurs just before liver failure in rare cases. But within weeks, they sent me back to the first hospital. I was only getting 1 shot per day. Even from the first day, I was wanting to eat solid food and was asking to get up and walk and go to the window. I knew I was going to be fine. The staff at the hospital was so excited. They couldn't believe I was back and that I looked so healthy already. The last time they saw me, my body was extremely swollen from withholding water. My own family told me later that you couldn't even recognize me. And here I was back with a big smile on my face and in no pain. I got a private room there, and when I took my first shower, I bellowed out the song in the garden. And I knew I had walked and talked with my father on the other side, and at that point in my life, I needed him more than ever. It was the most beautiful thing. The words just came to me, and I feel like my singing was from out of my body, like someone sang through me. I didn't have to stay at this hospital long either. 2 weeks and I could go home. I went with my family this time. I did not leave with my husband at the time. Even to this day, when I get blood work done, everything looks great. A few years ago, I asked a doctor, "Are you sure?" because I had liver failure in the past and they scared me into thinking that would always be an issue for me. The doctor said, "You are in perfect health. Every single test result is within normal range and your vitals are even better than the normal." Ever since I had my experience, my intuition has been stronger. I am empathic with others and understand what that means. It doesn't scare me anymore. I get signs and messages that I had been missing all of those years, and I know how to work with them. Electronic devices malfunction around me, and even ultrasound machines do not work accurately on me anymore. I know that my purpose is to just be and do things that make me happy because that's how I'm healing the planet by resonating my frequency. I paint and write and play music. I'm not afraid of circumstances. I just have some kind of understanding that everything is going to always be okay, and I have been able to share that feeling with friends and loved ones. It's an entire new perspective, lacking any type of fear of outcomes. I find beauty in all things around me, especially in nature, and all animals are drawn to me. I was meant to travel for many years and connect with the many energies and areas of our country. This story was shared by Melinda C. and happened in September or October 2010.